Greed is not a modern invention. We look at the headlines today: crypto collapses, billion-dollar startups vaporizing overnight, and we think we are living in unique times. We aren't. Before the algorithms, before the blockchain, and before Wall Street became a global casino, there was one man who wrote the source code for financial ruin. He was a charming Italian immigrant standing less than 5 feet 2. He promised the impossible: 50% profit in 45 days. A mathematical impossibility. A miracle. In 1920, he didn't just steal money. He stole the American dream. He built a cathedral of wealth so high it blocked out the sun, until the foundation turned to dust. His name is now a noun, a definition of fraud. To understand the monster, we must first meet the man. Carlo Charles Ponzi arrived in Boston in 1903. He was 21 years old. He later wrote, "I landed in this country with $2.50 in cash and $1 million in hopes." But hope doesn't pay rent. For years, Ponzi was a nobody. He worked as a dishwasher, a waiter, a clerk. He was fired for shortchanging customers. He spent time in a Canadian prison for forgery. He was a grifter, a dreamer, a failure. Then, in 1919, he opened a letter from Spain. Inside, he found a small piece of paper that would change history: an international reply coupon, or an IRC. To the average person, it was a stamp. To Charles Ponzi, it was a glitch in the matrix. Here was the mechanism. It was simpler than you'd think. Following World War I, European economies were in ruins. Their currencies were weak against the US dollar. An IRC bought in Italy cost pennies. But that same coupon could be exchanged in the United States for stamps worth much more. Arbitrage: buying low in one market, selling high in another. Theoretically, it was a 400% profit margin. It wasn't illegal. It was brilliant. So Ponzi launched the Securities Exchange Company. He promised investors a 50% return in 45 days. Banks offered 5% in a year. But there was a problem, a fatal flaw. To pay out the millions of dollars pouring in, Ponzi would need to transport hundreds of millions of coupons across the Atlantic on ships. The logistics were impossible. There simply weren't enough coupons in existence to cover the investments. A rational businessman would have stopped. Ponzi did not. He stopped buying the coupons entirely. He realized he didn't need the stamps. He just needed the belief in the stamps. He took money from investor B to pay investor A. The Ponzi scheme was born. Not out of malice initially, perhaps, but out of a desperate refusal to fail. Boston went mad. By the summer of 1920, Ponzi was bringing in $250,000 a day. That is roughly $3 million a day in modern money. People sold their war bonds. They mortgaged their homes. Widows emptied their savings. Even the police officers sent to control the crowds invested their paychecks. He was the wizard of finance. He bought a mansion in Lexington. He bought a controlling interest in a bank. He was a hero to the working class, the immigrant who beat the system. But inside the office, it was chaos. Checks were lying in wastebaskets. Clerks were stuffing cash into closet space because the safes were full. There was no investing, no coupons, just a furnace of cash, burning bright to keep the darkness at bay. Success invites scrutiny. The Boston Post began to ask questions. They hired a financial analyst, Clarence Barron. Barron did the math. He noted that to cover Ponzi's investments, there would need to be 160 million reply coupons in circulation. In reality, there were only 27,000. The final blow came from within. William McMasters, Ponzi's own publicity agent, saw the truth. He realized his boss was a financial idiot and a sociopath. McMasters went to the press. He called Ponzi a distinct danger to the community. The run on the bank began. Thousands stormed the office, demanding their money back. Ponzi served them coffee and donuts. He paid the first few people to calm the herd. But you cannot pay everyone when the money doesn't exist. On August 12, 1920, the audit was complete. Ponzi was $7 million in debt. In today's money, nearly $100 million wiped out. He surrendered to federal authorities. The wizard was just a man in a cheap suit. He spent years in prison. He was deported. He tried to scam again in Florida and again in Italy. But the magic was gone. Charles Ponzi died in a charity ward in Rio de Janeiro in 1949. He was blind, partially paralyzed, and penniless. He left behind thousands of devastated families, people who lost their life savings, their homes, and their trust in their fellow man. Charles Ponzi died, but his invention is immortal. From Bernie Madoff to the crypto kings of today, the blueprint remains the same. The promise of easy money, the suspension of disbelief, the exploitation of trust. History doesn't repeat itself, but human nature does. As long as there is greed, there will always be another Charles Ponzi, waiting with a smile and a promise that is too good to be true. And we will believe him.
Ponzi's story is a mirror. Greed is human nature, but blind gullibility is what leaves us bankrupt. Always maintain a healthy skepticism. There is no free lunch. If someone promises huge returns with zero risk, then 99% of the time, you are their liquidity. In your opinion, what is the biggest red flag of a modern-day Ponzi scheme? Share your perspective down in the comments. If this video helped you stay sharper against financial traps, please hit that like button and subscribe to support us as we continue to uncover the truth. See you in the next investigation.